You're listening to a Pop House Network podcast for developers by developers.
Hey, hello, and welcome to the Stack Podcast episode 72, recorded on March 8th, 2024. My name is Kito Man, and I am your host. Here today with my co-host, Daniel Hinojosa. Hey, Danno. You're muted, Danno. Are you muted?
Of course I'm muted. That's what I like to keep it professional. Yeah. Very good. Doing very well.
Good. So unfortunately, we do not have Josh or Ian with us today, but Danno and I are here with a special guest. Is there anything interesting you've been up to lately?
Yes and no. I was trying to do a quasi-retirement this year. Because I usually get into a lot of stress. I noticed like a couple of well-known DevRels and well-known devs, quit lucrative positions. And I get where they're coming from because the stress was like too high. And that's a big thing for us. So, I'm not going to quit my job. And I actually enjoy what I do, but every now and then I'll say yes to something, and then I just end up like in a big stress ball or whatever. So I was hoping to say no a little bit more. That's not working out, but it's still, it's still fun. But some things get pretty stressful. So I still have a huge load on my plate. But everything's going well. And I guess one of the interesting things, I've been teaching a VS Code class.
Oh, cool.
And you know me as more of a IntelliJ guy, but it's been pretty good since I use that with Gitpod.io. I've been doing this class for a customer because they asked, "Can you do a VS Code class?" And I'm like, "Sure." Of course, same thing, panicking over like I don't really know this, but got it down, and it's okay. I'll say it's good. And VS Code does a good job. They have some amazing things like the language server protocol. That stuff's amazing, and they have a lot of amazing things going for it. Some things are just not quite there yet. That JetBrains, stuff rules. So, but that was kind of an interesting thing that I have on my plate.
That's cool. Yeah, I've been pretty busy so far. Just with the few clients that we have, and still doing, and now we're not. I think our clients now are mostly focusing on Java, Jakarta EE, JSF, stuff like that. But also, we help out with all sorts of different things with process and things like that. So I've actually been working with someone who's writing integration tests using Selenium. And I've been trying to get that running in a Bitbucket pipeline. And it's funny because there's the whole, Docker and Docker thing. And we're using custom Bitbucket runners, which are the same as the GitHub runners that run on some other machine, and they just talk to Bitbucket, But it's so funny because there's all these little annoying things. And it's like that, man, this is what the DevOps people have to deal with all the time, because it's like, I get something working, and then it's like, okay, but SQL Server 20,022, which is the version we're using, has a bug where it blows up if it runs in Linux kernel 6.7, which is the more recent one. And there's all sorts of weird little things that keep running into. Or, you can't use Docker and Docker with Bitbucket pipelines unless you create a custom Docker and Docker image that's available in a public repo. You can't use your internal repo. So there's all sorts of little fun things.
DevOps, and I think I've said it on this podcast, DevOps is harder than programming. Because programming, you have some sort of control. You know what to do, and you could feasibly make a good estimate, even though you run over that estimate all the time. But your programming language, you do very well with that. DevOps is a murder mystery each and every time, and you have no idea where to start. You go furiously looking at every AI, you go look through at every Stack Overflow, and sometimes that doesn't help. Sometimes it's a dumb mistake. Sometimes it's a semicolon, a comma, or whatever.
Yep.
Man, it just drives you nuts. So I'll still stand by that.
Yeah, I totally see that. So, all All right, so let's introduce our special guest. Our guest is Edwin Derks, who is the principal or a principal consultant at Team Rockstars IT, a Java champion, and also a contributor to open source projects, MicroProfile and Jakarta EE.
Yes.
So, hello, Edwin. Welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Nice to be here. Yeah.
So, Josh recommended us that we have you on, and unfortunately, he can't be here. So,
Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah.
yeah.
Josh is.
I know. I mean, he had to go pick up his kid from college. I mean, what?
Offspring, man.
I mean,
Oh, man.
yeah.
Who does that? All right.
No. So, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Even though it's very late, but still glad to be here.
Right.
If I fall accidentally asleep, please shout a bit so that I can wake up. But no, it's fine.
So, so just so you guys know, we normally record around 3 p.m. Eastern time, and I'm on the East Coast in the U.S., so that works fine for me. But Edwin here is based in the Netherlands, in Tilburg.
Yep.
So what time is it there? Is it like 9?
It's now
Midnight.
9:35.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, it's 9:35. Oh, okay.
Yes. So I think we should all give him props for joining us at 9:30 on a Friday night. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my hobby. So yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I like doing this.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about a few news items, and then we'll pick your brain, Edwin. Love to hear.
Oh dear.
So is this? Did I add this global industry Jakarta EE lookout, or was that you or
That was me.
that was you?
That
There
would
we go. So you started
please
early.
be one topic I'm familiar with.
Yes, great topic.
Oh, well, first let's do this. Tell us about Jakarta EE. What is it? Is it related to J2EE? Is it related to Java EE? Yeah, if you could let our listeners know a little bit about Jakarta EE first, and then tell us some news items and how things that have advanced since Jakarta EE came out, and where did the name come from? Yeah, so we'll let you take over.
Okay. Yeah, so in short, it won't be short because there's a lot to tell about Jakarta EE and JEE. But yeah, in the end of the 90s, it's so old is it already. Enterprise Java development emerged, and J2EE was one of the first established enterprise Java frameworks that you could use as a developer to do enterprise Java stuff, like generate XML pages and connect to databases without having to invent that yourself. Of course, there was someone who thought that could be done better, and that was Rod Johnson that started Spring. So J2EE and Spring were the main competitors growing up together, and then Spring evolved, but J2EE became Java EE, and Java EE 5 was released in 2005 somewhere. A new version, but looking at Spring, what they did best, and Spring looking at what Java EE did that they could adopt. So Enterprise Java has taken quite a history already, but also interesting innovation steps, and that was very healthy for the framework, but also for the community using it. Although the community using it was dependent on the vendors that created the Java EE specifications that you could use as a developer, because, for example, Oracle and Red Hat and IBM were one of the vendors creating these standards for the developers. So when I went to conferences in 2010 and 12 and 15, over all the years, I saw updates of Java EE and Spring on stage presented. I as a developer was like, oh, new features, and I can build even better Java EE and Java EE or Spring applications. But with the emergence of the cloud around 2010, things went a little bit too fast for Java EE. Spring adopted better, but with the cloud, you could build scalable infrastructure and microservices, and then you had to to think differently how you build your app, your enterprise app. And Spring did a better job there than Java EE with the specifications and the implementations, the application servers that had trouble adopting to the fast changing world of the cloud. So in 2017, Oracle decided as the steward of Java EE to no longer be the steward of Java EE and donate it to the open source community under the governance of the Eclipse Foundation. And the community could then pick it up and evolve it further as an open source project. Now, as we look back, that was a very good choice because that is one of the reasons that nowadays still have a healthy Java EE framework. Although Oracle, being Oracle, said, "Oh wait, you can have Java EE. Here's the code, everything. However, the name is ours. You're not getting the name. The brand is ours." So one of the first things the community had to do was find a new name for Java EE. And if I'm correct, if my memory serves me right, the Apache Foundation had a project in the fridge that was no longer being maintained, and somebody said, "Oh, that's called Jakarta. Can we have the name?" And they said, "Okay, that's fine." And then a community effort was to design a logo for that. And for Jakarta EE nowadays, we have the colorful sailing boat as the logo, and Jakarta EE as the brand for the former Java EE framework or platform, or how to call it right now. But it's more than 25 years old and alive and kicking, and still competing with Spring, but also newer frameworks like Micronaut and Quarkus and whatnot. But that's not the whole truth of it. Jakarta EE provides the standards still that we use in all these frameworks, but also in toolings that we use in IDEs and all over the place that you might not even recognize. Or, you might recognize it, but you might not see that Jakarta EE standards are being used internally. So you can still, and over the years I have done so many beautiful projects with Jakarta EE that I could use an application server, put my app on it and run it, and then have all the interesting details in the application server and just focus me as a developer on my app. Works perfectly, and with all the innovation of the past years, this even has taken a big leap forward, and the community is picking it up, and it's being evolving. As we speak. I cannot.
And I think we had this discussion not too long ago about microservices, and Jakarta was able to meet that goal, where initially they were never it was still old style application server, one central piece, and one monolith. But because of the way Jakarta EE has advanced a lot of things, that they can now do microservices and do microservice things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole truth, however, is that MicroProfile was the big game changer there. It's a side project that's based on the same ideals and principles as Jakarta EE, but MicroProfile was already under the Eclipse Foundation before Java EE went there. But MicroProfile provides the cloud-native specifications or standards that you want to use as a developer or your application server implementation to make sure that your cloud-native environment has health checks and metrics and all the cloud-native stuff that lets your Jakarta EE application actually fit in a cloud-native environment. So these two complementary sets of specifications, standards, essentially, that is the reason that we still have a modern and applicable enterprise Java platform nowadays.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's important to point out also is that I think part of the reason that Spring sort of jumped ahead for a while was because Oracle kind of sat on progress for Java EE, Jakarta EE for a couple of years. So So they kind of like slowed things down and then didn't decide what they wanted to do. And we were all wondering like, hey, what's going on? Like what's, and then they eventually open sourced it. So we lost a lot of time. And then after it got to Eclipse, there was all the work of number one, absorbing it into Eclipse, which is a huge process. And then number two, we had to change all the namespaces. Not like I did this personally, but the members involved with development at that time had to move everything to the new namespaces and everything. So we lost a lot of time there. So, but things are moving now. So,
yeah, very much. Yeah, and in a good way.
Yes, indeed.
And a little geography here. Jakarta is the capital of Indonesia, and Indonesia is made up of multiple islands, and Jakarta sits on the island of Java.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew there was some relation to that island. Okay, that explains it. Cool. So, Edwin, what do you see for Jakarta E11? Because that is on the roadmap for this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there are feature enhancements. The fun thing is still for me that between Jakarta EE8, when it was rebranded from Oracle, until Jakarta EE10, it was released 2 years ago in 2022. There was 5 years in between, and there was not a single feature added. It was completely frozen code base because we were doing all the things, all the maintenance under the hood to make it, ready for being an evolving community product. But in these 5 years, if you read the developer surveys that the Eclipse Foundation set out, you see that Jakarta EE increased popularity. They gained popularity. They were adopted properly in the community and loved by people that actually loved the vision behind Java EE and Jakarta EE, and even more. So that fortunately didn't kill the concept, but it strengthened it. That people really wanted it to work. And with Jakarta EE10 and now 11 on the horizon, more features that the developers actually need and requested and probably have made themselves and committed themselves. That is the next step in another new frontier of Jakarta EE, a new specification set. But what it actually is a platform that you build your enterprise application servers on. But there will be, if I'm not mistaken, a new specification in there. At least it should. The data specification that provides you more flexible ways to do modern data persistence with standardized means. Because historically we have the Java Persistence API, which was very much based on Hibernate. Actually, the database persistence framework that we all know, also in Spring. But it's really used for transactional relational databases. But Jakarta Data, for example, will open up more ways to do data persistence, and there are more specifications on the horizon that allows us developers to do even more things standardized, so that we don't have to invent these things ourselves. So yeah, I think the Jakarta E11 is not going to be a very significant. I mean it in a positive way. It's not significant, but an increment on what's already a good direction, and that hopefully will result in the near future in a kind of predictable release cadence, even tuned to the Java release cadence maybe, and that would be even more beautiful, that it aligns with other community efforts also. So somewhere on the background talks are still happening there about that, but when we get more predictable in how and what we will release, that release cadence will come as part of the platform also.
I'm working on a project right now. In the last 3 seconds on Jakarta, I went to, as you were getting me excited with your discussion there, went to the Jakarta EE website at Jakarta EE. You have a starter. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, I should not. Yeah, I should not forget the starter. Oh,
no
Yeah,
I was just like, oh, let's check this out. Let's see what it has. And I'm like, they
indeed.
have a
Yeah.
starter. This is great. And it, has a selection, everything. I'm just getting started right now. I'm just running a Maven right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful that we have a starter. Yeah, a few years ago, I was there, man. I was there in the community. Always people saying, "Oh, Spring has a starter." Yeah, they have, and it works beautifully. Why doesn't Jakarta EE doesn't have a starter? Yeah, MicroProfile initially started a starter, and it was also successful on MicroProfile. And then the community took up efforts to actually create the the Jakarta EE starter also. And it's very handy because even if I want to start a new project, I just go to starter, click, and then I have a project set up that I can just start programming, and that is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot. So the only thing I was confused about is because I don't know anything about Jakarta EE yet, was it asked me for platform, web profile, and core profile. Do you know the differences by chance?
By chance, I do. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very easy. You have the whole shebang. Every specification that you have in Jakarta is being put in the full profile. So when you start developing, whatever you need, databases, HTML pages, messaging, it's all there. You don't have to look for components in the component library like you do for Spring. You have to select the components. But Jakarta EE, it's not necessary. You can just have one dependency and then go. That's for Maven. That's the beauty of it. But that also means that you need an implementation, an application server that also implements all these specifications. And that's where things might get complicated for your cloud application because it can consume more memory and RAM for your application with all stuff that you don't need. So therefore, you can opt for the web profile. That is a slimmed down set of specifications. And then you have the core profile that's even a more slimmed down set of specifications, kind of. But that is more tuned for what you need for cloud data development. And if you need anything else, you need another profile. But essentially, these are your tools that you should need for a certain approach.
So platform is the big one.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
And tech.
I'll be busy developing, so you guys go ahead.
From a technical perspective, MicroProfile actually depends on the core profile. So if you were to go build a MicroProfile project, it would use the core profile.
And I see the Docker support that comes built in, which is very much like Quarkus. I think Spring, I know Quarkus does that. Mm-hmm. Have a Docker file that's ready to go. You can build it within your application, it looks like, and you're ready to rock and roll. Send that over to Kubernetes, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I helped out a little bit with the starter project. I think Reza spearheaded it, but I helped a little bit with the JSF stuff, but it's only like a couple PRs with the lake. So, but yeah, it's a pretty handy starter. So I think I'm looking forward to Jakarta 11. And I really like the Jakarta Data spec. There's a link in the show notes at stackpodcast.com. And because to me, it's it's like a standardization of the Spring repository, which is cool, so.
Yeah. So if I can add anything more on this topic, I will be presenting a session about this topic, Jakarta EE MicroProfile, on DevNexus this year in April in Atlanta. Cool. And so my love for how to use that framework properly and what it brought me in the past and how I think you should use it, that's what I still advocate as a Java champion, Java enthusiast in general, hoping that others pick that up also, because there are many valid reasons to just pick the starter, a project, and start developing and put it in the cloud, and it's enough. You can do all kinds of magic with components and news. It just works. So developer joy and efficiency is something that I apparently like, and with Jakarta, I can just build applications very fast and stable.
So you're going to be at DevNexus. So am I. And Dan, are you going to be there?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So we'll all be there. That's exciting.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'm doing a architectural patterns workshop, so I'm not doing a presentation.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
What are you
I'm
doing?
doing a presentation on the evolution of web application architectures. So
You're doing a Jakarta EE, a specific topic though?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will present my Jakarta EE session indeed. But it's not very surprising because since this is the second year, the DevNexus has a dedicated Jakarta EE track on the conference.
Yes.
So there's a whole day, and the second day also only Jakarta EE and MicroProfile related content in one room. So that shows the significance of how important it currently is for the community that the conference invests in a dedicated track for this topic. So I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, and so because hopefully this will be out before DevNexus. So if it is, I encourage anyone who's still on the fence or considering going to check it out. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. What is it? It is April 9th or 11th. So definitely one of the best Java conferences, I think.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our second topic. Is server-side rendering dead or alive? Which I think is an interesting question because, as we all know in computer science, or in software development, I should say, nothing ever really dies. Things just seem to come back a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So.
Or not, and that's is what I want to talk about. Yeah, when I thought about what to discuss today, and especially since Kito, you already mentioned a few times JSF and we came up on the topic already with the starter a few times already, but it also in the past couple of months the topic raised sometimes with just being with my colleagues, and they said, API and Angular and front ends, and why can't I just use server-side rendering? I say, yeah, why shouldn't you? And then they say, yeah, poo, they don't want that. They think it's dead and all, but I think it's very good and we need it and it's less complex. And I tell them, then just use it. You're the architect or the senior developer, whatever. Just say, but go for server-side rendering. Mm-hmm. And then they don't want that. There's such there are some very valid use cases to just use Jakarta Server Faces, for example, as a Jakarta EE vanilla server-side rendering specification, which is one of my favorites. There are very good reasons to not create an application with APIs and an Angular front that is loosely coupled, because you all have all the integration stuff to deal with and fancy front end to build. It might not be your expertise. For many applications and many security reasons, maybe even server-side rendering is still a very valid choice of application development. But the perception of people sometimes is, I deliberately start a conversation to hear what people think, but it's old. Fine, it's old. What gives? It's obsolete. Why should it be obsolete? It's still being developed as one of the most active Jakarta EE specifications, for example. And why doesn't it fit in modern software development? Yeah, you cannot build microservices with it. There's some weird reason I get. And people just forgot the real benefit of server-side rendering, essentially. Maybe JSP scared them away, or the time leaf from Spring, I don't know. But I still, if somebody comes to me right now and says, Edwin, very important, we have to do a project, 1 year building a JSF application because we need a stable business application for a big purpose in a year. I say, yeah, let's go. I will start doing it. Mm-hmm. I will not complain about Angular and fancy front ends and stuff like that. If the use case fits, then why not use server-side rendering? So is it dead or alive? I don't know. It's sometimes in between, maybe, but
yeah, I think what's interesting to me is this term server-side rendering. We didn't even really have it back in the day, right? It was just like you write a web application.
It was just there. Yeah.
So what's interesting now is on the front-end developers are starting to do more of this, and I think that's where the term is coming from, right? So initially, it was about like, okay, we're building this JavaScript-rich application, but when it loads, it has to load all this stuff, and it takes a while. So let's see if we can render part of it beforehand, like hydrate some of the components beforehand, and then render HTML straight to the browser more quickly, and then do the rest of the JavaScript stuff after. That's where it all came from. But now I'm seeing more stuff that's more like, well, let's just do the whole thing server-side and like have some server-side actions. And then it's starting to look a lot more like what we were doing before, which was like JSF and other ASP.NET and other frameworks like that, that server-side rendering, but like all the most of the computation is on the server as well. So yeah, it's interesting to me, and I'm really, I like working with the front end frameworks, except for React. But I like working with them. I have worked on them. I don't totally hate React. It's just not my favorite.
I love all web frameworks.
But I will be happy to work with React on a project. That's don't take it completely that way. But I prefer like Angular or pure web components or stuff like that. But what was my point? My point was, I still think, we still have clients that use JSF. A lot of them are legacy ones, but some of them, it's just not worth the cost to rewrite it because, and, the user, and also, one of the main reasons for having a separate API is scalability, right? You can have lots of microservices, they can be dynamic, whatever. But, some applications only have a few users or 100 users. They don't have millions or thousands, hundreds of thousands of users or something like that. And in those situations, you really just need to concentrate on adding business functionality. You don't need to make it super scalable because it doesn't need to scale that much. And I think for those situations, just anything that'll render a UI that's efficient for the developers involved makes sense. And, So it's interesting to see more server-side rendering from the front-end folks, from the JavaScript community. That's what I'm getting at. So yeah, and if you look at like Vaadin, they've been doing this.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very modern and still active, and I see them also a lot of at conferences. They're doing the marketing also pretty well. But yeah, they stick with the server-side rendering ideology that they can still sell their framework with server-side rendering to clients that can benefit from their product as a server-side rendering product. Yeah. So that like I said, it's of course there's no silver bullets. That's not what I try to sell here, but with especially the younger generation that grew up maybe with microservices and APIs and Angular and React front ends, they do know or forgot that server-side rendering is actually mature and still applicable thing.
Yes,
they wave it out of the way too fast, and that's sometimes what.
And Edwin, this is why I'm doing this talk on the evolution of web application architectures.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
precisely because and I'm sure this is like this before us. All of those COBOL developers. There's a lot of stuff that people don't know about that already happened before. So yeah, it's it's kind of interesting. But I think it's important just to recognize that the solution depends on the context. It's not there's just bullet, So
yeah. So if Josh was here, he did a talk on the Jakarta Tech Talks a few years ago, where he showed, look, I have a microservice and it has a JSF front end and it scales, and it has nothing to do with not being scalable and stuff and all that crap. He just showed I have just a front end on a microservice. See, it works. It's beautiful. That he revitalized or rebooted ideas in my head. Yeah, I also almost forgot that it existed and could be done. So yeah, I was really fond of that.
Well, what's interesting is one of our clients, they have they use Spring for their web services. But so the JSF part that we're working on is actually running inside Spring Boot, and there's a project called Join Faces, which integrates Spring Boot and JSF and Prime Faces and all that stuff. And we also have some extra integration we've added, mostly Bach is added to integrate CDI and JS in Spring in some scenarios, and it works beautifully. And it's really easy to just take that fat jar and throw it into a Docker container, which is what we're doing for testing. So yes, it's not hard. So
that's so to maybe come to a conclusion at this point, there's a reason that stuff persists over the years. And if stuff doesn't die, it has a purpose somewhere. So just have to make sure people get the point of the existence. Yes. That's what I do in conferences.
I know what you mean. Yep. All right, so let's move on to a couple front-end talks since we're talking about front-end. The Angular Developer Survey is out. When is this here? Oh, yes, it came out a couple months ago.
Heck, that's right.
All right, so this is, I don't know if we mentioned this before last time or not, but if you're curious about sort of some information about Angular developers, that is now out. And most people are using Angulars for standalone components, directives, and pipes. That makes sense. And the average team size, 3 to 10, 47%, 1 to 2 is 25%, which is interesting. So if you're interested in the whole Angular ecosystem, you can check that out. You can find it on the show notes at stackpodcast.com. Another front-end thing I wanted to mention, as I mentioned before, I'm of course, into web components. And one of the issues, and people who don't know, web components are basically a set of HTML standards to let you build UI components that run in the browser. They're not server-side rendered, although you can server-side render the HTML. Just fine. With
just to make a point. Yeah, you can do that.
But which is actually a viable thing, I will say. But anyways, so one of the things though with writing web components and using the custom element specification, which is the sort of the main way that you write an element essentially in JavaScript or TypeScript, is that if you wanted to act exactly like a real UI component in like a form component, it was kind of a pain in the butt, and it didn't really integrate completely. So there's this new spec called ElementInternals, new feature, I should say, that lets you sort of access the internals of the element, and you can access ARIA roles, which is very important for forms, and participate in form submission, which is a big deal as well, and participate in form validation. So basically, your custom element can have full interaction with the way the forms to work and the way validation works and everything. And this was one of the holdouts for Safari, for Apple. So Backlit it's in Safari now, and it's also in Chrome and Firefox. So this was like one of the last sort of web components issues that need to be solved. So I was just very happy to see this. This is a good write-up. And those who are listening to the podcast, you can find it at stackpodcast.com. But there's a great article from the Safari folks about how it works and everything. So yeah, so I was kind of excited to see that one. If I can find my Zoom window, I can actually stop sharing my screen. There we go. Okay.
I still have yet to get into the front end. I don't know.
Maybe you won't. I can always go back in person.
Right. The only front end I did get into is Elm.
No.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people like it. Gives me a headache. I spent like, a couple hours reading stuff and I was like, oh, I have a headache now. And
The
then,
toughie, yeah, it's not that easy. But it's also, everything is statically typed and functional, so that's my game there. So
yeah, you can see that. All right, so who had the Kotlin headline?
I don't know who did that.
Is this a copy from last week?
There's a new Kotlin. Yeah, I guess so. I'm not getting into Kotlin myself, but I heard a lot of great things about it. I don't know, it was inspired by Scala, but I do a lot of Scala myself. So,
Well, you know what I can say. So this was, I'll just mention this. Kotlin 2.0 beta 4 is out. And they have the new K2 compiler and a whole bunch of other things I don't fully understand because I don't really do Kotlin either. But some more new features as well. Local variables, scopes, inline functions, etc.
There's a good competition between Kotlin and Scala, and I think it's worth reiterating the Kotlin, Scala, maybe Groovy. I think there's still a lot of proponents of Groovy, but we were talking about Brian Getz, I think, before the start of the show. But I think a lot of, more than just Brian, but I think a lot of them are inspired by the languages that are in the JVM. Those don't have a particular harness. And I say harness in a good way. They keep themselves from just implementing just about anything. We're going to be talking about Java 22 here in a bit. But they don't implement things just because they can, is the way Java rolls. And that's a good thing. But Scala and Kotlin are like, yeah, let's give this a try. And we'll release things. And generally they're well thought out. I don't want to say they're just like second thoughts or anything like that. They're always well thought out. But they watch and learn and listen to the complaints that we have every time a new release comes out. And it just makes Java so much better.
Yeah, I think it's been great. And, Kotlin's a pretty big force now with all the Android stuff. So I think, what is it? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think James Ward is now been an evangelist I've seen over the years in many conferences. I think he's now a product manager for Kotlin at Google. Like, I think that's his job. And
a term though called developer relations, but
yeah, whatever.
I know. I was I almost stopped my job. I'm not religious, and my mother knows that. And I told her, you know what? I just got an interview to be an evangelist for this company, and she's like, "Why do you want to be an evangelist? You're not even religious." Like, she didn't get the title of like what a technical evangelist was. But I think soon after they started calling it DevRel. So
yeah, which I guess is a little bit easier to understand.
That's right. That's right. Go door to door and talk about some technology is probably what everyone was assuming.
Pretty much what it is. I mean, it's just the doors are different, right?
That's right. The doors are a bit different.
All right. So let's move on to the exciting world of AI and machine learning. And there is this your, oh, you know what? I think I left these from previous episode. Yeah, so there was a link here that we
joined late on this one, but yeah, this one is from last
time. Yeah, so this is basically just there's an article about that Chris Richardson wrote. Chris Richardson was on our last episode. So he wrote this about how LLMs are hungry and thirsty.
I don't know what this is about, but I'm assuming as far as hunger as money and thirsty as in resources.
Yeah, I would think so. LLMs are also thirsty. Since LLMs are computationally expensive, they are also thirsty for water. Oh, he's being...
That's what I was thinking about, yeah. There's a lot of water involved in it.
Lots of
a lot of water.
There's a lot of electricity. Yep.
I don't want to get like too political, but that's one of the big things I am worried about is water, because we use it a lot for fracking and we use it a lot for computation as well.
I don't think that's political.
And
It shouldn't be.
Bengaluru, which I'm going to be going to here in a bit, they're going to be one of the first cities that is going to have a water crisis. There was another city that's already having a water crisis. So water's going to be a tough topic for all of us in the near future.
Yeah.
I'm not even, I don't think, being weird. I just know where everything is going, and everyone should too. Water is going to be
a fear of mine for quite a while, actually. And I guess now I'm just getting worse. But I've thought about that. Like, I play with all of these AI tools because you kind of have to, right? And, but if I do a query with an AI with, I use find.com a lot, which is, uses models, used to be based on ChatGPT, but it's not anymore. Or if I ask ChatGPT a question, it's like, how many more researchers am I using them if I just did a Google search? Like, it's a lot, Chris's article says that there are estimates that ChatGPT conversation, like one conversation, can consume as much as 500 milliliters of water. Which is a lot. Just one conversation.
It's a tough thing because I'd like to try my best to keep the my carbon footprint down, but I do travel. I do use computers. I do use the cloud. I do use LLMs a lot. I do, where's the other thing that it's one of those hidden ones that coffee is another one. I enjoy my coffee. That takes a lot of water. I eat avocados. That takes a lot of water. I eat almonds. That takes a lot of water. So there are a lot of pleasurable things that, I think every one of us takes a part in, but it has, a huge detriment to the environment.
That's not, I think you just mentioned like half of my food source there.
I know. I ruined everyone's lives.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Moving left.
Read a book from now on.
That's what my son is doing because he overstepped his bounds with electronics. So he's banned from using his phone and everything. And it's funny. Like he actually went out and rode his bike the other day. He's only 10, but he's like, wow. And we played Connect 4 because he was bored. So
yeah, remember boredom? Like I didn't boredom, but like that was actually a thing. You were just
a good motivator.
One day you were just bored.
All right. So moving right along. Speaking of depressing AI stuff. So I ran across this recently, which is a paper from Google about Genie, which is an AI for building generative interactive environments. So basically, it's an AI that can build platform games. So you basically can give it a prompt, and then it'll. I guess you probably do more than just one prompt, but you can create all these little AI platform games. And I was just like, wow. It can even take human design sketches and make little platform games out of them. And so, I was looking at this, and also real world images. So I was like, wow, this really, obviously it's a certain type of game that it's generating, but just the fact that you can do this with prompting is pretty amazing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we go along.
Yeah. I don't advocate the Unabomber's violence, but the idea of living in a shed in Idaho and not dealing with all this just sounds like really a nice idea right now. It's just everything's moving really, really quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's scary too.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to Java stuff. JDK 22 update. Woohoo!
Yeah.
I feel like 21 just came out, but
it did. Yeah.
Yes.
That's because it did, Kito.
Yeah. I still, but now what's cool is that it'll be easier to convince people to use 21, because before 21 is new and they're like, oh, we don't want to use it because it's new.
Yeah, we have this topic all the time, and it's still like amazing to me, just the human mind or the human emotions of fear of the new just happens in technology like all the time. So it's always like with Java, and I always find it very interesting of just watching people of like, just saying things like, no, I need to be assured that this is going to work. So I'm going to stay with JDK 8, or I'm going to stay with LTS. And Brian Getz had a tweet before I quit Twitter. And it was, each one of these versions is a quality version. We're not releasing trash each and every time. So you don't have to rely on like LTS. You could just like use any one of these. And yeah, it'll get phased out, by the time the next release rolls around. But this isn't crap. And,
yeah. Also,
go ahead.
There are so many developers also in my vicinity that just take this LTS knowledge and create their own ideas with it, what to do with it, what it means. And when I ask what does it mean for you, it's LTS. I need that, and the others not. Why not? Yeah, because LTS. And do you have a support contract? What? Okay,
But the support contract isn't with the language. We had one session on that. I think was it Nikolai from Oracle? He had put out something and people were like angry about it, where he's saying we don't owe you anything when it comes. We didn't say it like that, but we don't owe you anything when it comes to the LTS. That's not a contract between us and Oracle, who champions the specification. There's nothing that we owe you on that. That's who your vendor is with the LTS. And they don't have to respect that at all either. So, you have the LTS, but I wouldn't say it's meaningless. It's meaningful, but it's only meaningful between what you expect from your provider.
Exactly. There's a lot of context to put into the LTS.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And like nobody has, very few people actually have a support contract anyways. So
right. What are you getting anyway? Yeah. But I think every strong opinion on my part, and that is you should be using multiple JDKs anyway. I mean, I would think any seasoned, well-used, or well-seasoned, I'll just stick to that word, well-seasoned Java developer, you're going to move from 11 to 17 to 20 to 21 to 22, maybe once in a while to 8.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we use like JInv, or what's the other one? SDK man, right?
Yeah.
To be able to swap between all the different JDKs, and same way you do if you're a front-end developer, you get like 5 versions of Node on your machine, right?
Yeah.
You use NVM.
So I can't wait to show you next then. But anyway, Kito, since you have your shared screen here, so let's go with stream gatherers is the thing I'm excited about. 461.
What's this?
So this is the intermediate operation of doing aggregates midstream. So if you've ever done a grouping, you have to do start, do your map and flat maps and filters. And then you have to do a group, which is a terminal operation. And I think you have to convert it back into a list.
Yeah.
So list to stream, aggregate, do your group by or whatever, and then turn it to a list, and then stream again if you have additional processing. So the gatherers here are midstream processes that you can do. So you could do now a group by as an intermediate operation, as well as other things. And it looks like from this, they're going to add more gatherers. So it's a gatherer is a midstream aggregator, and you can continue on from there. You don't have to rematerialize back into a list and then restream it again. It's just all one continual stream.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like this.
Edwin, do you get how far has the functional style programming affected you in Jakarta?
I think that not in the least is really close to the truth.
Yeah.
There are still very few reasons to put anything other than very old plain vanilla Java 8 style in the interfaces that we use. So even records are a revolution, but is not necessarily landing into the platform. You can build enterprise applications with Jakarta using all these new features from Java, but they don't end all up yet in the specifications themselves. So that is very interesting, actually, still.
So that's a new one. And Kito, let's go to, or if you need to go to one of these, string templates is the big one. So that one's coming out second preview. So you can interpolate strings. I think we have talked about that one.
Yes, finally. I've been waiting for this one for a long time.
But everyone complains about it. And it's because, again, Java thinks about things probably more than some of the other languages. And so, they're avoiding, what's that called? Not dependency injection, but like a SQL injection sort of thing. And so that's some of the things that they are, looking forward to. So I think if you scroll down some more, so you can stop anywhere around here.
Yeah.
There's the example here. We are going to be using str, all in caps, dot.
Oh,
and we're going to use a backslash on it. And people have complaints about that style, but I think they have their motivations for that.
Huh. Interesting. That's not what I expected. I think if you think about the way the JDK is developed, it's sort of like the Apple model. You let everyone do everything, and then you look at it and try and do it better. Right. It's often slower, right?
It's kind of like I think I mentioned. Sometimes I don't know whether I mentioned things in a previous podcast or not. So one of them was the async keyword.
Yeah.
What's its pairing? Async and the other one?
Await.
Await, yeah.
Yep.
Async and await are in other languages. And Java's like, nope. We are not doing that. We are not making our language with a bunch of like async keywords on there. That should just be a part of, a particular object or something like that. So
the completable future.
Yeah, completable futures. But also we have the virtual threads now. So either use that or use virtual threads. And virtual threads is programmed like it's 1985, and we'll take care of the concurrency stuff for you. Which is really nice.
You mean 95, dude? Java was around 85.
Oh, that's right. But yeah, that's there's that one. And the thing I don't get, I don't know why people are like, I don't want to use anything new. You're missing out on that.
And I've been waiting for this for a while. And honestly, even just the multi-line strings in general took a long time.
Yep. And I know I talked about 447 before, because I know you were excited about that one too, Kito. But for those that didn't listen to the previous one, here it is. By law, by Java law, you have to put a super as the first line in a overwritten constructor. But now, no, you don't have to. You call super whenever you want.
Where's the example?
Like that inner right there.
Oh.
Supers usually have to be the first line, otherwise the component will get on your case about it. Now you can put it wherever you want. You still have to call it.
Right.
You decide where you want to do it. And the big reason is maybe you have some invariance or some validation that you need to take care of before you call the super object.
Right.
And, now you can.
Yes, I do like that one.
That one's going to be great.
Nice.
And what was the foreign function memory so that we could call C-based applications? This is the new way to do things rather than, gosh, I forgot the old term. What was it, Kito? Do you remember? The library where you use the native keyword?
The JNI? Is that what you're thinking?
JNI, yeah. This is from what I understand, maybe I have it wrong.
I think this is
JNI.
Yeah, foreign functions, yeah.
Yeah, scroll up a little bit. I just saw the word TensorFlow on there. Yeah, there it is. However, the cost and unpredictability of garbage collection is unacceptable for libraries like TensorFlow, Ignite, Lucene, and Netty. They need to store things off heap. By the way, there's a podcast that is in relation to ours called Off Heap.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with this. Maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe they'll have one episode, but yeah, that's what this is.
Nice. Yeah, there's so many great features. Class file API. I don't know what region pinning for G1. I guess that's a feature of the G1 garbage collector.
The implicitly declare classes and instance main methods. So main methods can just stand on their own now. So whenever you have to teach Java to anyone, you just say create a main, and I think that's it. Here's where it says right in the kind of the first. If you don't scroll right now, that one, yeah, that's our new main method.
Yeah, I love that. Especially for learning, you shouldn't have to create a class just to write a little bit of code. So very nice. All right, so yes, check out JDK 22.
Awesome.
And you can find it at openjdk.org or go to stackpodcast.com.
Sure.
All right, so the other topic we had is this is just one of these random security breaches, but this one kind of grabbed me. Although this is old. I thought there was a more recent one.
There was a recent one on healthcare yesterday.
Yeah, this is now
installed the healthcare system in the U.S. or whatever we call it. I'm not sure we have a healthcare system.
Healthcare data breach. What it is?
Yeah, I think something happened.
Oh yes,
Stole millions of records.
Nice. Yeah, that's lovely for United Healthcare, which I used to have.
Yeah, that's a big name too.
Yep. Very cool.
You think with all that money we give them?
Yeah. I just think that we I don't know. I think we're all screwed in terms of those.
Edwin's like, you Americans are miserable.
We have our own problems.
You have your own problems.
But we have a healthcare system, yeah.
Yes, that's useful. But how do you want to? Indeed.
Oh, we have a healthcare system. You're still on the hook for $200,000 afterwards.
Exactly.
Anything majorly goes on.
All right. So let's got a little bit of time left to pick Edwin's brain. And Danno, I'm going to ask you to talk to him for a minute while I find out why my son has been standing here for
Yeah, no problem. All right, here we go. Question. All right. You ready, Edwin?
I don't know.
Your first deployment descriptor in J2EE or Java EE was what? Was it XML? Was it annotations? Or was it a Java application that described your beans and whatnot? Your first deployment descriptor that you used to write for Java EE, which one of those three was it?
I'm pretty sure, way back then, it was XML in 2004 or 5, running on JBoss Enterprise 1.4 or something.
Okay.
So way back, but I'm pretty sure it was XML.
Yeah. Now the first one was, that was your first one. That's all I wanted to know. But the actual first one, you wrote a Java application. That was your deployment descriptor. One of the first releases, and then everyone got excited about XML.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you still have XML? Is it still XML in Jakarta EE, or is it mostly annotations now?
It's almost all annotations, but a few scraps of XML still are there. Yeah.
I think it's kind of like Spring, because Spring, I think, still has that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But Jakarta, I was reading right now, has CDI. I invested a lot of time with it. I should go back a little bit to some Jakarta EE. I read all the specifications, the CDI, the servlet, and just about everything. And it looks fantastic. I was looking through that documentation, and it was like bringing so many memories, but you have a lot of other stuff. One of the things I didn't see there is I recall Java messaging system, which was a Java-based messaging system. I didn't pay too much of JMS at the time when I learned it, but I'm probably a lot more into messaging as in the last 10 years, and I deal a lot with Kafka. Can I integrate with, a Kafka or a RabbitMQ or other services? Because I think RabbitMQ is not a JMS-based one, if I'm not mistaken. And could I integrate with other messaging systems using Jakarta currently?
Now we have to look where I'm going to start. JMS is a specification for doing messaging, and the implementation is just not important. It's you have to just have an implementation that connects or translates your JMS messages to the implementation. And I'm pretty sure still that years back, I had an application and that had RabbitMQ as the message bus with AMQP 9.0.1 or something with the connection, the messaging protocol. But then we went to AWS and used Amazon MQ, and it was a managed message bus for our application. But we also switched to JMS, and if I remember correctly, we had JMS with the AMQP protocol converted to the Amazon MQ. I if my memory serves me right, it was like that. So you have a very flexible landscape actually there nowadays. It's good.
I'm looking at the Confluent documentation because that led me to, you had to remind me that the JMS, of course, is a specification, hence the S on there. But it looks like they have a JMS 1.1 compatibility already, although not everything is going to be implemented. But because it implements that specification, you should be able to plug that in with Jakarta.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, I'm back on. My son, since he has no screens, he's bored. So,
that's what you get for punishing him.
I know. I'm telling you. See, that's one of the things I've actually been thinking about with the JMS, because there's nothing wrong with JMS. Like JMS is fine, it works well. It's a very nice API. It's simple to use. But all the other messaging systems popped up, like Kafka, most notably, and that work a little bit differently. And it seems like it hasn't really, I haven't heard of it really any newer systems using JMS, but it's like it probably could. Maybe not for Kafka, but for some things you still could. So it's I kind of wish we would get a new sort of push, because you shouldn't have to learn a new API every time you try a new messaging message system, as long if it's the same sort of publish subscribe sort of system like JMS. Exactly.
That's a good point. I like to subscribe to your podcast. Because it is like Kafka is a pub sub. The intricacies are in the details of it and what kind of settings you need to put into it. But really, it's publish and consume, and behavior is behind the scenes. So if you're doing a pub sub and if you're doing a queue, you pop that off. But nothing is really quite that drastically different about it.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of which, I just did a quick search. Confluent in the Confluent has a Kafka JMS client.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at here. Yeah, we could put that in the notes as well.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Yeah, it makes sense, but someone had to do it. Yeah,
definitely. So I missed your first part of your conversation, but
you got it.
So what did you you ask Edwin about his
I asked him about how
life and times of Edwin?
What was it? Oh, I can't remember.
Deployment descriptor.
Deployment descriptor, yeah.
Right.
And I asked him what was his first deployment descriptor written in, a Java application, a XML, or annotations when he first started. But his was like an XML. Kito, do you remember writing a Java application as your deployment descriptor?
Writing the deployment,
whatever the XML deployment descriptor used to be for a Java EE application before XML, they didn't have XML in the first round.
No, I do not remember that.
Is it the stubs and skeleton setup?
Something like that,
I think I missed that. Barely.
Yeah. I mean, I was much more into like, servlets and stuff. So I had to write a web that XML for that. But
yeah.
So I had a question, Edwin. Obviously you've been in the industry for a while. How did you get into open source? And what do you do on, like, what's your day job?
There's two questions. The first one, how did I get into open source? That was by accident, because I never thought someone humble like me cannot participate in software because I'm probably too stupid. That was my perception up until 2015, 16 somewhere. I went to conferences and I did my day job, but I never thought about really contributing because the barriers seemed too high, or I don't know. I was just not busy with it. But in 2018, I met Emily Yang at DevOps UK in London, and she did a talk on MicroProfile, and I was like, okay, let's have a talk because I'm interested and I want to know more. And she said, why don't you join our open source project? And I again was like, no, that's not, I'm not worthy enough to be around these people. And she said, of course you are. Even if you just participate and vent your opinion and just be in the meetings, and you don't have to build up anything if you don't want to and spend a lot of time. I was like, okay. She sold it to me, and I was adopted warmly into the MicroProfile community, and did my Tuesday evenings with MicroProfile every week for 5 years in a row. That was a very, very beautiful commitment, and I learned a lot, and I met a lot of beautiful people. But since then, I'm still thankful for her, convincing me to join the open source community, because it brought me a lot. Even being here essentially today is one of the fruits I pick from starting that initiative.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and Emily is awesome. So
yeah.
Good luck. Didn't we have a podcast with her?
We did. Yeah, she was on that last year, I think. So that's how you got into open source and everything.
Yeah.
Cool. I always tell people like that I used to be sort of on the fringe of open source. Like I was always involved with like MyFaces and all these JSF related projects, and also a lot of the enterprise Java stuff, the job community process stuff. But I was always like the person who would like, I'd file bug reports and stuff. Like I was always like, but I would never actually did a PR until the last several years. The last few years now, I'm actually a committer on some stuff. But I used to just always be just around the periphery, But that's still useful, just still being involved. And I still to this day, like, for projects I'm not involved in, if I'm working with the library and there's a bug, like I file a bug report. If I have time to, I'll do the whole reproducer thing. But I will say though, it's really bad if your barrier to entry for that is too high, because people just won't spend the time. But I'll file a bug, and I still will do PRs against projects, especially if I have a project where I have to write something that's an addition to some library or something, create a PR for that. So fun stuff. So that's how you got into MicroProfile. Was there any particular part of it that you enjoyed working on? Because there's several different specifications. So.
Yeah, so in all honesty, I didn't really work on the specifications themselves. I participated more on the project level. I drove some releases, and I did the release management stuff for some releases within the Eclipse Foundation, because you had to write up proof that everything was in place, and the box got ticked for approval for release, stuff like that. I still do this now in my day job, but I found it very fun to do and valuable to not be into necessarily the technical details, but also just governance and arranging things. And also advocating the framework. So that's what I did.
So my son just printed out a label that says Big Daddy, in case anybody's wondering. So anyways, that's cool though, because that release management stuff, that's stuff that has to be done. But not everybody can do that. So
Yeah. And wants to do that, yeah, it's a different kind of work, but I like it.
Cool. So so your day job, you work at a place with a very cool name, Rockstars IT. And or, I'm sorry, Team Rockstars IT. I forgot the team part. And you're a principal consultant there. So tell us what you do there.
Yeah, actually all kinds of stuff. But I am essentially a consultant that fixes stuff. And so I'm not developing anymore. I think I wrote my last production code in 2019 somewhere even. But I mentor, I consult, I arrange, I architect, or just with different hats on what needs to be done to get a problem solved for a company or a team going or an architecture worked out. Yeah, I fly in when people need me. That's essentially what I do for helping businesses with IT.
Sounds like a fun job, actually.
Yeah, but very a little bit stressful and time consuming because you have to go from customer to customer to get into the domain and understand the people and understand the company, understand the problem. It's often hard work to get all this information processed, but
Yes,
I appear to like it. So yeah, it's all good.
All right, cool. I'll do one more thing. I'll ask you an Adam Bean question. What was your first computer?
If I remember correctly, because I was very, very young, it was a 286-ish.
Mm-hmm.
It had a color screen, but I had a special. My dad had a bunch of these 500 kilobytes floppies, I think they were, and one was orange, and that was mine.
Oh, you
I could place my my drawings I could make on the screen on my orange floppy. That was my 5-year-old-ish child being happy with the computer.
Yeah, you're in the Netherlands, so isn't everything orange already?
No, not everything. It's not that orange.
Was it that orange?
That's cool. It's 286. Yes, I remember that.
That was a good computer.
Yeah. I think I think we did have a 286 at some point. But I started out with a TRS-80 though, so I started out with one of those.
I went VIC-20, then Commodore 64, and then I had a Commodore 64. Then I became an adult and still, I think I gave up I didn't use a personal computer because I didn't own one. Then, just as an adult had a tough time, and then finally, got a loan to buy a 486.
So
that's where I got mine.
Nice.
Rough stuff, man.
Yeah. So, Edwin, you have a topic here: developer career and what to do with it. So I'm curious what you meant by that.
Yeah. So like I said, I already revealed it kind of. I wrote my last production code in 2019, and since then I've been all over the place on conferences and different companies and in open source, but I don't really do development anymore. So how the reason is over the past couple of months, people ask me, Edwin, how do you stay relevant and what do you do actually now you're not developing anymore? They find it surprising. How can a Java champion not develop Java? And then I tell them experience and dedication and personal what's the word? What I like to do, preference. There is more to do in software development than developing software. And so with my experience that I have now as almost also a subject matter expert on Jakarta EE and MicroProfile, I review books there are 2 books that I've reviewed as a technical reviewer. And also I was in a book from Bruno Souza and Heather Van Cura about developer career master plan. I was one of the chapters.
I've been meaning to check out that book. Cool.
Yeah. So that's also what you can do as a developer, not developing. So with my experience in software development in general, I fix problems because I appear to end up with liking that most. I started off as a developer because I was young and I was like, okay, what should I do? Okay, developing seems nice. Let's do that. But yeah, my path has brought me to a career where I don't develop, but do help others develop software as much as I can. And that is essentially what I like to do now.
Yeah, let us know what those books are, and we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've known Heather for a long, long time because of the whole Java community process thing. So when I saw it, I was like, that's interesting. So
yes, I definitely encourage you to read chapter 6. So
all right, we'll do that.
And I found the specification, by the way, that was JSR 77, that describes how to write deployment descriptors using the Java programming language. With
77.
That's what that is?
Yeah. It was just a bunch of sets and gets.
Fascinating.
That's the way we wrote the descriptors way back when.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to add that to the show notes. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Cool.
All right. So let's move along to our picks. First one we have here is Assistant AI for JetBrains.
That one's mine. Yeah. I did. I usually have this IntelliJ Dojo class that I do on for NoFluff and O'Reilly. And it officially came out for O'Reilly, so I thought I'd better up my game as well, since that's a little bit more worldwide. And I knew I was going to be asked about AI, so still learning about it, but it's kind of like an integrated ChatGPT, but they have their own engine that you can use. They have different ones. They have a basic one where you don't get a priority for the answer, but if you pay, you get instantaneous answers on it. That's the way their model's working. And they have an enterprise that you have to call JetBrains, and you negotiate a particular price. And their model doesn't necessarily have to feed back, and you could turn that off if you want to, where you're just only using the model. You're not contributing it back to that engine. So it's pretty cool. But like I said, you're a little bit of destroying environments by using AI.
Yeah, it's interesting because initially when they had the AI assistant, because I signed up, they had Grazy Professional, which uses some AI stuff.
Oh yeah, that's for grammar, though,
right? And just technical writing in general. And then they turned it into the AI assistant. They had a couple of features, and then for some reason my account stopped working with it, and I was like, it's too much effort. But now it seems to become a full-fledged thing like Tab9 or Copilot, or it seems to be competing against all these other things.
So it will create commits for you, which is great. So just like look through the files for that particular commit and create some text for it. You can use it in like a Copilot style, where you'll just say, given this is the code that I want. Provide a diff before you commit, and so pretty good. I'm trying it. I only know a little bit right now, so I haven't gone through the instructions like a good boy should, but I'll get there one of these days.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think I'm going to play with that, but it looks like it does require a subscription from what I saw.
It is. It's $8.99 US dollars, but you could convert that to euros or whatever. It's the basics free, $8.99 for the professional, and then
those organizations
we negotiate with JetBrains. what's really cool about it is that it's all JetBrains products. So that's the other cool part about it. So if I switch to PyCharm, or if I switch to
that's
Whipstorm,
nice.
or Rover or whatever,
Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to subscribe, but my AI analysis budget is slowly growing because I have like several subscriptions.
I know that because I have ChatGPT and I'm paying for Midjourney.
See, I've got ChatGPT and Tab9 and Copilot right now.
Okay. And I won't tell you what to do, but like I would say that Copilot, and if you got the JetBrains one, then you got two competing ones.
Well, I've also, remember I have a whole session on these, so I have like 6 or 7.
Like Midjourney, I don't pay for for Midjourney. I don't spend anything on iStock photo anymore. So it's a lot cheaper than that for making.
Right. Yeah. That's part of the reason I had some DALL-E credits before I did the ChatGPT 4. So
right.
For the same reason, because it's like I can get exactly what I want as opposed to trying to find, some.
Well, you have to be good at prompting, which I'm not quite that good at.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of work.
Yeah. When someone told me I have to be good at writing to be a good programmer, I was like, what do I need to write English for? Well, there are proposals, there's specifications, and now there's prompting. So learning how to write your verbal language is an important thing, evidently.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, so you have another pick for us?
Yeah, T-Pain. You're like, what? What is that? Are you sure it's not J-Pain? No, it's not J-Pain. It's T-Pain, the singer. Anyway, did Kito get unplugged?
I don't know. Maybe his son.
Oh, sorry.
All
He
right.
didn't want to hear what I had to say about T-Pain.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You're good.
So T-Pain, for some of you may just remember him from like 2005, 2006, and he was saying auto-tune, and you were probably thinking, he's not a really good artist. Anyway, I was like that. And then he went on NPR Tiny Desk concerts.
Oh, I love that series.
And so they just have this tiny desk. They have this tiny office. They bring music artists over. At first, they were just like weird music artists that, kind of like nobody heard. Then they started bringing more and more, big artists. And then I think T-Pain's career was kind of at a lull. So he did the Tiny Desk concert, and people were like, oh my gosh, he could sing. And he has a great voice. And then we have a show here called The Masked Singer. And he was the Masked Singer, and people were like, I don't know who this is. He wasn't using auto-tune, but he had a great voice, and it stumped everyone, and everyone got it wrong. He took off his mask, and it was T-Pain, and people were like, T-Pain? Who? Do you remember T-Pain? And now his career is just like rocketed. And so there was this one, I think it's, I'll have the link there on the show notes. It's a live concert. He did Black Sabbath's War Pigs, a metal version. The guitar is outstanding on it. But he has one song for Tennessee Whiskey. People are talking about that one. Anyway, just a great singer. Anyway, non-technical one. My last technical one is Nix OS. So some of you were talking about like, was it NPX, where you have to change the NPM version that you wish to use?
Yeah, it's NVM. This usually.
Oh, it's NVM. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Node version manager.
Yeah.
And we have SDK Man, and we have Brew, and we have this, and we have that, and it's becoming more and more of a mess. So what Nix OS is all of that. No NVM anymore. No SDK Man. But I'm going to say this straight out. It's not easy to set up, and it's a functional style programming document that you would use. But once you get it and understand it, then the way you do this is you create a default.nix file, and you state, I want ASCII Doctor, I want Git, I want NVim for this project only. I want this note version, I want this, I want this, I want this. And so now you just specify the tool set in this document, and then you just do Nix shell, and you get into a shell so that way you can run your application, and you never have this drift of, hey, this node just changed, this version just changed, and now nothing works. This gets committed into your, with your project, and you always have a consistent version for whatever you would like.
So it's sort of like, what is it?
It's kind of like SDK Man. It's kind of like Brew.
But it reminds me of, there's something similar in Ruby, but it's only for Ruby. It's basically, maybe it is the gem file, but it's like more of a workspace sort of thing.
It's kind of like Docker and dev containers. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of competing notions of this where you declare exactly what you want for a particular project.
But I
don't know who's going to win, dev containers or Nix, or maybe something new.
But it's clearly a need, especially for people
Totally.
like us who have different clients. It's like you want, there's always that how long is it going to take me to set all this stuff up, and it shouldn't really be a big deal.
Right. The Nix file is a pain, and there's a lot of learning to it. That's a high learning curve. But as the usability is just Nix shell, you just type Nix shell, and all of a sudden you have a specific NPM, you have a specific JVM, you have a specific Ruby version, you have a specific everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cool.
And they even have a OS, which is you can create your own Linux system ISO file with everything specified that you need.
Yeah, see, that sounds really nice. And then if you can just turn that into a container.
Yeah, but just a warning, that learning curve is going to get you.
Nice. Yeah, see, they have VirtualBox, EC2, etc. So nice. All right, so I had one pick, which was something called MakeCert, MKCERT. And I don't know how many times you've run into this, Danno, but many times I've run into a situation, especially doing front-end stuff, where I need a self-signed certificate to use locally.
Mm.
And it's always a pain in the butt. You got to get like OpenSSL and, do all this stuff. And MakeCert kind of does it automatically for you. Like it'll just make you a self-signed cert, or it's not really self-signed per se, but it's locally trusted.
And Keytool is, I assume this is partly make Keytool a little bit easier for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keytool.
Yeah. It's like, and then it'll actually install it into whatever operating system you're using, whether it's Windows, Mac, Linux. It'll install the certificate and trust it for you. And then you can use it locally for development using SSL, and it saves so much time. Because in the past, what I had for setup for one of my projects was I wrote a script using OpenSSL to generate the certificate, install it for you, all that kind of stuff. And it's like this made that script 2 lines of code instead of 20. So yeah,
is rough. Or the SSH, whether you use the SSH or the Keytool to do all that self-signed certificates and everything. It's just
it's a pain. So yeah, MakeCert is really handy and works on pretty much any platform. So, all right. So, let's just round this out. We're
really quick. Edwin, did you think of any picks?
Oh yes, yeah.
We were talking about it. We thought we'd inspire you as to what a pick is, or anything that you use that we should be using.
Yeah, if we talked about it before, the best thing I could come up with was PowerPoint, because that's my main tool nowadays. So, yeah.
Back when I used PowerPoint, I didn't think it was feature rich. I was like, PowerPoint is dead. Who's going to use PowerPoint anymore? And then now I have a couple of them just because a couple of clients want PowerPoint. And I'm like, wow, this has this. And it's just been, it's been pretty impressive. I'm more of a ASCII Doctor Reveal JS guy primarily. Yeah. Second, I'll do Keynote, but PowerPoint holds its own, definitely. What do you like about it there, Edwin?
Yeah.
Just everything.
Yeah, the reason I'm using it is that I have to draw stuff up very quick for people to explain something or convince or write up anything, and PowerPoint is just open, draw, save in some format that everybody can open, and it's very accessible, but also until limits, of course, very easy to get stuff done in a quick way. You can draw boxes and arrows, so that's my main tool that I need. Yeah. So for me, PowerPoint and Word and essentially the Microsoft stack is my thing nowadays, because that's what I need as a toolbox.
Right. Do you use anything for architecture diagrams, or do you just use PowerPoint? Like, do you use Visio or anything like that?
For real high over architectural diagrams to share people explain PowerPoint, but actual architecture diagrams that mean something, Spark's Enterprise Architect or Draw.io, very ranging in quality, of course, but there are the tools that are more dedicated to actual drawing that you can save and restore in different formats.
What was the first one you said? You saw Draw.io, or what was the first one?
Spark Enterprise Architect. It's a big the drawing tool. Sorry?
SPARK, Enterprise Architect. Yeah, there it is. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I don't think I have either.
Oh, Sparks, SPRAARX.
Yeah, I think it's the X indeed, yeah.
Well, there it is.
We're gonna add that to the show notes.
There we go. Yeah, look at that.
We used Draw.io for the Jakarta EE documentation. That was our standard, or the Jakarta EE tutorial, because it's free. So it makes sense for an open source project. But I'm actually using it for a client too, because it's just, Draw.io works. It's not like the best, but it works.
Yeah, the main reason I'm using Draw.io over Visio, for example, is because with Visio, for some reason, you have a box and an arrow in between, and the arrow is not straight, and you cannot get it straight. And then I'm like, my autistic brain is like, rare. and Draw.io does it mostly neatly and draw my arrows straight. And then I'm like, oh, this is nice. That is very important to me personally.
I remember that about Visio.
If you got that OCD brain, you're gonna be looking.
Yep. Sorry.
That little break right there, and you're like.
If I park my car not in a straight line in the square, then I am tempted to get into my car again and park it straight. It's sometimes very exhausting. But
I am trying to dedicate my life to OmniGraffle. I think it's a cool tool. That's more drawing. I don't think it's specific to like architecture or anything. But
I like that one too. Yeah.
Really great.
I usually, if it's up to me, that's what I'll use, because it works. It's fast.
Yeah, and since we're talking about diagramming, Miro is a good team working development. For domain-driven design, usually it has where it has the most attention, but I suspect you could use it for just about anything. And
I've seen it used for even like retrospectives and sprint planning and stuff. I think.
I also use it a lot for online workshops and collaborating with people. It's very good.
Yep. Very nice. Cool. Yeah, we got a lot out of that one.
Yeah. Thank you, Edwin.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
All right. So let's wrap up, and I'm trying to actually add Miro to.
You did. I see it on my end.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was trying to get the link there. All right. Cool. Okay. So So there's a couple other podcasts in the Pubhouse network, the Off Heap podcast and the Java Pubhouse. You can find these on your podcasting app as well. And we've got a few events coming up. The one that all three of us will be at, which may or may not have happened when you hear this, is Dev Nexus 2024, April 9th to 11th in Atlanta, Georgia.
Which I suspect, since Edwin is in the Netherlands, are you going to be flying to Amsterdam, or are you going to be riding your bike to Amsterdam, or are you going to be driving a car to Amsterdam, and then you're going to have a nice direct flight over to Atlanta? Did I get it right?
Nope. Not at all. The fun fact is, I live really rather close to Amsterdam, but also rather close to Germany. And there's a little city called Frankfurt that has a airfield. But I like the German Autobahn, so driving off the Autobahn is nice. But the reason I'm flying from Frankfurt is that the ticket prices for planes from Schiphol are like flying to Atlanta, can be 1,000 to 2,000 euros in addition to Frankfurt. So I rather drive over the Autobahn to Frankfurt and fly from Frankfurt to Atlanta than from Amsterdam.
What's the price? I mean, what's the distance for you?
For Amsterdam, without traffic jams, is 1.5 hour drive, and Frankfurt 3.5 hours. So
Okay.
it's just
but since it's a fun drive, you might as well.
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. I actually for the flight for India for the Great International Developer Summit, I'm driving to DC because the flights are just cheaper out of because, and, Washington DC has like 3 airports around it, right? And I live like 2 hours south, and there's like one tiny airport, and like basically, anywhere I go, I have to do a connection to a hub. So I'm like, for this flight, I can save some money. I'll just drive directly to the airport. So
You know what? We should do a podcast at either DevNexus and or GIDS, because I'll be in GIDS as well.
yeah, we should. Well,
Yeah.
Just give us some thought. Okay, cool. So that's the next one. It's Great International Developer Summit, April 23rd to 26th in Bangalore, India. And J Nation, June 4th through 5th in Cumbria, Portugal. And Dev2 Next is later. I'll put that afterwards. Why don't you go ahead?
So no fluff, just stuff. We have some local venues that we're bringing some great talks to you. Gateway Software Symposium in St. Louis. That is April 5th and 6th. New England, May 3rd and 4th. And Wisconsin, which I forgot the city. It's the capital. Madison, May 17th through 18th, 2024. And then the big one, UberConf. Right now there's an early bird special for that one, July 16th through 19th. The speakers already have been chosen, but that's wonderful weather. Around July, I think most of the nation's going to be humid and hot. This is just going to be like 85 degrees, maybe 90s, but
That one's in Colorado, right?
that was in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Very nice. Did you want to mention any of these, Edwin, or?
Yeah, the next one should be jconf.dev in Dallas, Texas. So I hope to speak there, or at least to go there, because I've never been to Texas yet. So that's nice.
Yeah, we were having a conversation before the podcast, and I was telling Edwin about our trucks and our big freeways. So Dallas is going to be the place where
Oh my God, yeah. Yes.
big freeways, big trucks.
Nice.
I mean, even in
No.
Virginia, I feel like I'm overrun by trucks all the time. So, Edwin, fun fact, the best-selling car in the United States is the Ford F-150 pickup truck.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yes, it is really big. All right.
Venkat Conf.
Oh, yes, VenkatConf, Dev2 Next in Colorado. That's not till September 30th as well.
But they're adding a Java track. I was at first because Venkat Subramaniam said no Java. There are other conferences that could do the Java stuff.
Yeah, I noticed it. Oh, now I see it. Yeah.
Now they have a Java track. There's a call for papers for that side of the conference, for the Java side right now. The other ones have already been solidified. So the workshops and the architecture, a lot of them are just architecture workshops. Venkat wanted this to be architecture and well-being, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
And that was his focus. And then someone said, hey, can you do Java? And I think he was hesitant at first, but now there's going to be some Java tracks to it.
Well, maybe I will have to, because I'll submit for that, because I didn't submit any Java talks because that wasn't really a big topic. So yeah,
That's changed. So try for that one too, Edwin, because Colorado, Breckenridge beer, and I don't really like that beer.
and lots of great speakers too.
A lot of beer. Oh yeah, speakers. Yeah, whatever. But the beer, beautiful.
All right.
Right.
Not at the conference. You're on your own with the beer, but conference ought to be great.
Yeah, it'll be good. All right. Well, I think we've come to the end of another show. Edwin, Danno, any final thoughts? Any final words of wisdom you'd like to impart?
Nope. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Edwin's like, I'm going to go to bed now.
Yeah, I have a lot to talk about always, but I think it's been enough. Enough it pops up, so.
All right. Well, thank you, Edwin.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, everyone who's listening. And we will see you next time. Thanks again.
Yeah.